Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome to the new, improved, and updated For Honor Analysis series. Little history for you. Back when I first started my channel, I made dedicated videos going over each hero, their historical inspirations, their movesets, their strengths, their weaknesses, and I even evaluated their executions. But as time went on, I began improving and adding on to my channel, and I now dedicate historical inspiration discussions to my Heroes in History video series, and I do actual grades for my executions now in my Executions Graded series. So, I honestly didn't think that there was much point in continuing the analysis series, but many fans have told me they'd like to see me bring it back and adjust it. After all, For Honor has changed drastically over the years since I made this series, and so movesets and capabilities have changed, so I decided to do this thing. I've decided to bring back this series. So, let's bring back For Honor Analyzed. And in this series, I will dedicate a video to each hero For Honor. I'll give a brief introduction to the hero and briefly touch on their inspiration from history. I'll share their basic movesets. I'll share a few tips and tricks that I've learned from playing them. I'll share my favorite and least favorite executions at the end, and then we'll close out everything with maybe a match or maybe some kind of final statement about the heroes overall. It's going to be awesome. Sound good to you guys too? Excellent. Let's get started with an old favorite, the one you all know, the OG, the GOAT, the one you see plastered on every single advertisement and marketing ploy for Honor. It's the Warden.
The Wardens, members of an ancient order, fallen into dust. Sworn to defend the weak, masters of the longsword. Their origins lost to history. Still, they fight for what is right. Driven by duty, devoted to their people. But only a few may join their order.
The Wardens, the vanguards of the Knight faction, armed with exceptional armor and the versatile longsword. It's easy to see why the Warden is the poster child of For Honor, being featured in almost every advertisement and promotional material. And within the world of For Honor, they are supposedly members of an ancient order long fallen from prominence. Yet somehow, the order still exists in some way or form, as new wardens can still be conscripted and sworn in. Bound by unbreakable oaths to Ashfeld and to the legions, wardens fight not just to defeat their foes, but to secure peace and security for the innocent. Note that everything I say now is personal conjecture. Everything that I'm going on with now is stuff that I have no evidence to base this on, but it's my speculation on the Warden's existence despite having fallen into dust, okay? Alright, I would argue that theirs was an order once far more prominent at one time, and though still active, its reach, authority, and power have waned drastically. Their reputation, though, is still acknowledged, and as a result, they are offered in service to orders and legions throughout Ashfeld. In the campaign, we hear the Warden main character mention that Adamar, the Warden you fight at the end of the first mission, is a Warden or used to be, implying that the oaths of a Warden can be broken or abandoned, or perhaps that a Warden might somehow break from their order. Apollyon admitted she was a Warden once before, but clearly wasn't one during her time as the Blackstone Legion's commander. Now, at the end of the Knight campaign, when the Warden learns of the atrocities he took part in, he tore off his pendant and lamented the fact that his oaths had been broken.
I took an oath to fight for peace. So did you. All of you.
Perhaps the Warden no longer sees himself as one, or he feels he's betrayed the oaths of a Warden. Maybe, and again, all speculation, but maybe being a Warden isn't merely about being a longsword master or being a cool, well-armored knight, but being sworn like paladins to something higher than themselves. I'm not saying that a Warden can smite people. Well, not yet anyway. I mean, There's always time. For Honor has been leaning on the fantasy every now and then, but hey, you know what? I'll take it. I'd love to see a Divine Smite from a Warden. Anyone else? Let me know in the comments. But I take this theory from historical counterparts. I actually do look to history when thinking about this speculation, so what do you say we go ahead and talk about the history? If you want a full breakdown on their historical inspiration, I would say go watch my Heroes in History video on them, but to provide a very brief explanation, the Wardens are most likely based on knights of the 15th and 16th century, and thematically are based on the knightly orders that existed during the medieval period, such as the Templars, the Hospitallers, and the Teutonics, and others besides. These monastic orders of knights did not pledge themselves to a king or queen, but rather to God and the church, meaning their oaths were to a higher purpose. While the world of For Honor does not explicitly mention Christianity or the church in its lore, a major misstep by the way, worthy of its own video, the Wardens clearly do not swear their oaths specifically to any leader, but rather to the needs of the people, which could be considered a higher calling. It also ties into the trailer where it says theirs is an order fallen into dust, yet it's still active as many of these orders of knights historically have been disbanded or lessened in terms of relevance. But some are still active as charity organizations or missionary groups today. Again, for more details on the historical counterparts of the Wardens, check out the Wardens Heroes in History video. I will leave a link to that in the description. But that is what I will say about the history for now. So let's go into the design and builds. Now, in terms of overall design, the Warden's design is definitely an A+. The Warden has an outstanding presence with serious aura. I've always been a sucker for knights and longswords, and the longsword, of course, remains one of my all-time favorite weapons. It's versatile, it's strong, it's proven itself throughout history as a capable tool of war. I have my own that I like to train with and work with. Longswords are definitely one of the coolest weapons in history. People ask me all the time, Raven, what's your favorite weapon? And longsword is probably going to be up there in the tier list for me. It's just such a great weapon. And as for the design, look guys, let's be real. Why else would they put Warden on all the promotional material if their design was not phenomenal? When you think a knight in your head, when you think of a stereotypical knight, is the Warden not what you tend to think of? Is that not what you usually picture in your head? In fact, Warden is such a good design, other companies and brands have tried to repurpose Warden's look for their own stuff. I've actually seen promotional material for other things like gyms or Comic-Cons or things like that where Warden is put on it. If that isn't a sign of how good Warden's design is, I don't know what else to tell you. And because Warden's design is so good, I've of course made various builds with Warden. Of course, my most popular one being Ruth the Northborn Warden. Many of you know that one. But aside from her, I have made Stephen the Righteous, William of Oxshire, Mara the Reaper, Theodora of Tyr, and the Raven Lord himself. But of course, guys, I can share all these with you, but you can't talk about good Warden drip without bringing up Havoc's own Ultor the Punisher Warden. And I want to thank Havoc so much for teaching me how to make that. All around, Warden is such a fun and even easy character to make look goated. And after all, guys, as the saying goes, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you do good. And if you do good, you win. That's an old saying, and I believe Russian Badger was the one who said it, and it holds true. So that is all I have to say about the design of Warden as it stands. But before we move on to everything else, let's talk for a moment about the executions. As far as executions go, I suggest going to my executions graded video series to see where Warden's executions fall in terms of grades, and I will leave a link to that playlist in the description, but I can at least tell you my favorite and least favorite executions and why. Now, of these executions, my favorite is Knockout. There's something about Knockout that just hits all the pieces for me. The ability to block the opponent's attack with the edge of the sword, to bring the sword around, impale the opponent, slide him to the ground as he rolls, and then just as he comes up for air, taking the head off. There's something very satisfying about that execution. There's something very meaningful about it. It's one that I put on a lot of my Wardens because it just feels right. But in my least favorite execution has got to be Larry's banner. The idea of pulling out a banner from your butt already bothers me, but if you're gonna do it, at least make it a meaningful banner. Make it a banner that I can get behind, but it's the healing banner. And when you plant it, it doesn't even heal anybody. You plant it and put it through a dude, and it's not even healing anyone. If it healed someone, I might get behind it, but it doesn't heal anyone other than yourself. You know what? Balls to the wall, just put the cross on that thing. Put a Crusader cross on that. Make it like straight up a Templar banner that you're slamming into the ground. That might have made it better for me, but honestly, as is, it's just not that good. Now, with all that said, I think we can finally move on to the next part of the video. I think the reason Warden is so popular largely overall comes down to his presence and aura, because he's certainly not the strongest hero in the cast. In fact, I would probably put Warden somewhere in the B, maybe even C tier in terms of overall viability amongst the other characters. But that said, Warden has come a long way from where he's begun, and he's definitely stronger than he used to be. So without further ado, let's go into how to play Warden. Warden is among the most simple characters in the cast to get a real feel for. His moveset is simplistic and revolves around his shoulder bash mix-up and unblockable heavies, making use of close and medium range combat. The Warden has a few options in terms of how to flow into their combos, and many of you may know the basic Warden moveset by now. If not, you can go to the training mode and For Honor to try it out, but I'll briefly cover some of it here. In terms of moveset, Warden has one of the most simplistic movesets that you can imagine. He's got your typical lights, your heavies, zone, guard break. But to add on to that, there's a little bit of spice to Warden. For one thing, if you throw a light from the same side on the second time, the next one is guaranteed, which makes sure that you do get a little bit of extra damage in. If you throw any light, you can follow it with an unblockable heavy. If you throw a heavy, you can follow it with another unblockable heavy, and you can do this with a zone as well. However, you cannot throw a heavy into light, or a heavy into zone. Anytime you try, it'll just come out as another unblockable heavy. Because of this, you can play 50-50 mind games with your opponent and make them guess whether you're going to follow through with a heavy or not, which can give you parry opportunities or just allow you to get in some good damage. Now, one thing to keep in mind about the Warden is that Warden also has access to a one-sided crushing counter. Unlike Highlander or several other characters with crushing counters, Warden can only do it from the top. If you'll demonstrate. Sorry, I was mistiming that. Go ahead. Unfortunately, you can't do this from any other side with Warden. If you would do it one more time. But doing it does allow you to follow up with a free unblockable heavy or light, or even bash, if we'll demonstrate one more time. So because of that, it is cool to pull it off, but my big problem is he is the only character who can only do a crushing counter from one direction, which I think is a huge misstep, and I wish that Ubisoft would change that and allow you to actually do a crushing counter from any direction. The next aspect of Warden to keep in mind is his shoulder bash. It is one of the most important aspects of Warden's kit, and anyone who calls you a bash spammer is just angry that they can't read bashes. In order to pull off a bash, you can either dodge to the side and pull it off, dodge forward and pull it off, or you can do it after a heavy, after a light, or after a zone. You can pull off your bash after almost any move there is, and the bash has 3 tiers. There's your tier 1 bash, which gives you a free light, a tier 2 bash, which also guarantees a light, and is mostly good for just throwing off your opponent, and a tier 3 bash, which guarantees a heavy. Now, if you want maximum damage, you want to do a top heavy. But you can do a side heavy to keep opponents at a distance. And while we're on that note, if I can just say, I love the fact that the side heavies have the Warden grabbing the blade and striking with the handle and pommel, which is actually something you'd want to do in actual sword combat, which I think is just awesome. Also, if you notice, when he does a light after a bash, he strikes with the blade first and then the pommel. Very creative stuff, and stuff you'd want to do with a longsword master. Now, Couple little tips and tricks that I'm going to show you guys. I figured this out as I've learned to play Warden and as I've watched Havoc. It's something that I've figured out. If you get a parry off of someone, usually a heavy parry, your instinct is to do a light, like this. And you can still do that, but there's something else you can do. Notice how when you do a bash, oh, sorry about that, bro, I miscommunicated. Notice when you do a bash, the stamina is damaged. So what you can do is after a parry, go ahead. You can do a tier 1 bash and actually not only do damage, but damage the stamina. I find that this actually helps you out a great deal, especially if the opponent has worn down their stamina a great deal. You can punish their stamina and get in a little bit of damage as well. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention, and I only really use it in ganking situations, but if you pull off a tier 3 bash, you can do a zone which can keep people at a distance, but it doesn't do all that much damage, only 13 damage, so it's not something I recommend too often. Because keep in mind, doing a double light does 15 damage total, so you're actually getting out more damage from doing that. Alright, so pretty clear cut. Now, let's make one minor change. I want to teach you one more thing. Now, my brother has kindly turned himself to always exhausted so I can demonstrate this. This is what we call the max out of stamina punish. If you throw your opponent to the ground while they're out of stamina, you want to do a maximum punish. And the maximum punish for Warden is zone into top heavy. That is what will give you your maximum punish of 13 plus 32, which for you math whizzes out there is 45 damage, which is absolutely outstanding. So one more time, if they hit the ground, zone, top heavy. Pretty simple. All right, you can turn it back now, bro. But this should give you a basic idea of how Warden's kit works. If I were to offer any advice, and keep in mind I'm the most casual of casual players, the advice I would offer is be patient. You cannot play this game like Orochi or Shinobi where you are constantly dodging, constantly jumping around, doing super fast maneuvers. You're going to wear out your stamina super fast for one thing, and you're not going to get out the kind of damage you really need to. What I would recommend is patiently watch your opponent and see what they would do. Use your bashes to punish their stamina when they make major mistakes, and also don't try to do a back dodge into a bash because it's just not going to work for you. It used to be that way, but they changed it. I kind of wish they'd bring it back now so that Warden can feel a little bit more viable, especially since they have other back dodges that can punish as well, but that's just me. So that's how I would play Warden. However, like I said, I'm the casual player, and there are other people who play this game far better than I do, and so I reached out for help from someone who Havoc told me is perhaps the best Warden player there is, Blitz. So Blitz, if you wouldn't mind teaching us your tips and tricks.
Here are some very useful Warden tips. Since Warden doesn't have a dodge attack, he struggles against unblockable mix-ups more than other characters, but to even out the risk-reward on the read, you can stuff the mix-up with a level 3, meaning if they feint to guard break, you will net 27 damage plus stam damage plus continued pressure. And if they drop the UB, instead of parrying, you can make the read to dodge and then get a guard break. Tip number 2. Attacks in mid lane can be locked onto minions. You do this by unlocking and then facing towards the minions and then throwing an attack. This attack will be unparryable, just like an external to all other players. This is particularly useful when Warden has his tier 1 death toll, because it gives him 3 health and 3 stamina every minion you kill. So say you're 1v1ing in mid lane and then you just start unlock zoning towards minions. This zone has a very good recovery, so it's unlikely you'll be punished, and you'll get a lot of health for every minion that you kill. Tip number 3. Warden's bashes can be target swapped mid-bash, and because of their insane range, this will land very, very often. This also looks very janky, as you can target swap it multiple times. And the final tip, when you do land a bash, Warden has very good options afterwards. All his follow-ups have hyper armor, and his chain links from bashes are very fast. This allows him to bash somebody and then target swap the heavy. This heavy on a lot of angles will be confirmed because an external attack lands much faster. This depends on the angle, but usually this heavy is very safe to throw out anyways, because you can stagger one player into another and land the heavy, or you can catch somebody as they're peeling. And that's all my Warden tips. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Blitz. Very much appreciated. That was excellent. And with that, I think we can wrap up the Warden video here. So, final thoughts. Warden is the poster child of For Honor for a reason. He is the cheese pizza of For Honor, as it were. He's the pizza that we all started with. You know, everybody started with cheese pizza at the start. It was the first pizza they ever tried. But you move on to bigger and better pizzas as you go, but that doesn't mean you dislike cheese pizza. You still go back to it because it's the OG, it's the standard, it's the one that we always want to return to because, hey, there's no school like the old school, and Warden is the old school. You can make a lot of really fancy new characters with a lot of fancy new mix-ups, but sometimes it's that tried and true character that we always want to come back to, and that's what makes Warden so special. He is the knight who holds an oath above himself and above simple things like countries and lines on a map and kings and queens. No, he holds to something stronger, something more beautiful, and I think that draws so many people to him. From his design, to his aura, to his weapon, to his playstyle, to his executions, Warden hits all the right notes for a whole lot of people, which is why he is the GOAT of For Honor. Thank you guys so much for watching this reanalyzed video series. Before I close out, let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy this video? Was it better than my old content? Did you like the format? What can I do to improve on this? What do you think could be changed or adjusted? Let me know respectfully down in the comment section below as I move on to the next hero in the roster. And you all should know who he is by now because he is legendary. I'll see you then, guys.